Okay, I'm going to start because I like to be on time. So first of all, I'm going to take questions mostly at the end. So please feel free to put your questions in the comments section if I feel like it pertains to what I'm talking about right now. So then I'll take that question now. I'm going to do like a brief intro to who I am and then just give you some general dating advice. So I'm Devorah Kegel. Usually I have my website behind me, but it's flipped, so I skipped that. But you can find me on all the social media platforms and my website, which is devorahkegel.com. Basically, I became a dating coach around 12 years ago. After my kids kind of went to school full time, I felt like I had some time on my hands. What could I do? What am I good at? Had a couple ideas, and I spoke briefly to one of my rabbis, and he said, you're already mentoring girls in dating through my classes that I was teaching on Judaism. And he was like, why don't you? I was thinking maybe dating coaching. He said, that's great. This was 12 years ago. Now it's trending. But I was one of the first. And Baruch Hashem, this past week and a half, we had our 261, 262, 263, and 264 client get engaged. So thank God. It's a really fun business to be in. It's a happy, simchatic business. And it's really my greatest pleasure and joy to help women through this process. I am only a dating coach for women. Occasionally, I would say maybe a couple handfuls of times, I have coached the guy that's dating my client. If she wants that and he's open to that, sometimes that can help give me like a fuller perspective of what's going on in the relationship. On one occasion that I can think of, maybe two, I ended up coaching the boy much more than my client. But I really try to limit myself to women. And I have people I can refer to. If you are a guy looking for dating coaching, I can refer you out. So I've been doing this for about 12 years. And basically what I do is I meet with a new client on Zoom and I get to know them, their family history, their dating history. I'm not a therapist, and oftentimes I will refer to a therapist, or the therapist sometimes refers to me, because it's a very different modality. It's not like digging deep underneath someone's issues. It's really very practical. Lamaisa, I went out on a date. I'm not sure if I'm attracted enough. Should I keep going out? Does he have what I'm looking for? He said this. Is this a red flag, right? It's very practical and very in the moment. I call myself a crisis hotline. Actually, I've had more than one client call me from the bathroom on a date. How can I get out of this? Okay. Anyway, so that's basically what I do. I meet with the person on Zoom. It takes about an hour and a half, sometimes longer, depending on their dating history. And that kind of brings me up to speed as to how we got to where we are today, and what kind of Achilles heels I need to be aware of going forward in terms of helping them. We make their deal breaker list, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which is the most important tool in terms of dating that I think really is crucial. And we make a game plan for the future. Sometimes people reach out to me proactively, they're not currently dating someone and they just want to learn better techniques of dating and figure out a better way to do things. But sometimes people call me when they're already in a relationship. And then sometimes I get those frantic calls. I've never spoken to this person in my life. And they're like, I'm about to get engaged or break up. Can you help me today? I'm like, I have a life. Could you have called me a week and a half ago? I do twist myself into a pretzel to make room for those people because I just feel bad. But try to get in touch with me a little more in advance. So then after I've had that initial session, I'm on hand as much or as little as people want. Sometimes my clients want to speak to me after every date, even if it's for 5 minutes. And sometimes people are okay for a little bit, and then they want to speak to me if there's a problem that arises or they're trying to decide whether to get engaged. And then I come back into the process. So that's kind of what I do. I did not grow up religious, so my train wreck of a dating history began in the secular world. We're not going to talk too much about that. And then as I became more religious, So my dating journey continued to be a train wreck. And I had a broken engagement right before I met my husband. Lots of good stuff. So I feel like my tafkid, my purpose, one of my purposes in this life is to help people through this process, which I had such a hard time with, and that I hope I can make it a little bit just easier and less stressful for other people. And don't make all the mistakes I made. Here's 100 of them, right? So I'm very familiar with both worlds. So I have clients of all types, not religious, traditional, modern Orthodox, Beis Yaakov. I had a few Hasidic girls. It was a quick process. But I really work with everyone, and Ashkenazi and Sephardi and all ages. I've had second marriages, Baruch Hashem, that I've worked with, and, girls just beginning the process in their 20s, and women who are, 40s, 50s, even 60s. So it's my greatest honor to do this work, and please reach out to me if I can help you. Also stay tuned. I am hopefully going to be publishing a book very, very soon. So we'll see how quickly we can get that out. Okay, so I just wanted to basically go over kind of like my top dating pointers and then take questions. So the first one is date yourself, which sounds cliche. However, if I don't know what I'm looking for, and I don't know who I am, and I don't know like what triggers me, and I don't know what my allergies are, right? So how am I going to date successfully if I don't know myself first? So you want to really take some time to, whether it's journaling, pondering, taking notes, reading some books, and just thinking about, what do I need? Not what do I want, but what is a must-have or a deal breaker, right? So you really want to take some time to learn about yourself first. Otherwise, you're going to waste your time, you're going to waste other people's time, and you're going to get burnt out. Okay, so a lot of times I'll work with a client, usually it's a younger girl, and she just hasn't worked out like who she is. Maybe hashkafically, like in terms of Judaism, she hasn't really figured it out, or in other ways, personality, she hasn't given thought to, her family of upbringing, her unique personality, her unique soul, her life experiences, and like what's made her who she is today. So that is step one. If I don't know myself, I cannot possibly know who's going to go well with me. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is to make a deal breaker list. Okay. So what is this? This is approximately 10, 11, 12 items. Please don't do much more than that. It's really, you can't have like a huge list. But on the other hand, if you only have 6 items, I think that's too little. So we want to make approximately 10. These are midos, character traits, and personality traits. It's not physical qualities. It's not what job he has. It's not what height he is. None of those things. It's really inner core traits, personality, and character. Okay. The way that I call the negative side is airborne peanut allergies. Okay. So like, can't even be in the same room as someone who's like this. This is usually a trigger that comes from your family of upbringing. Sometimes your dating history, if you had like a relationship that was particularly like traumatic. But usually your allergies come from experience. That's why I actually call them airborne peanut allergies, because from my understanding medically, the first exposure to peanuts does not give you the allergy. It's the second exposure. So the muscle works very nicely because basically, you had that first exposure in your family of origin or in a very significant relationship when you were young. And then you're triggered and you get an allergic reaction like hives and you're itchy. I'm just kidding. When you meet or are dating someone who has that trait. So to give an example, for myself, I am allergic to someone who is highly critical or has like raises his voice. Those are my allergies. So I looked for someone who was very, very easygoing and just, doesn't lose his temper. Very positive, right? I looked for the opposite of my deal breakers, of my allergies, okay? So you want to find your airborne peanut allergies and your positive must-haves. We want to really distinguish between needs and wants. Okay, this is not a list of preferences. You could put that in a separate section if you want, on your phone, but really we're sticking to things that are not negotiable for you. You can't bend, right? Marriage is basically no one's perfect. There is no perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, right? So what are we looking for? We're looking for someone who has the key traits that are most important to me, and I can overlook the flaws that I see in him because they're not triggers for me. Like, we see his flaws. And by the way, if you're dating someone for, a certain period of time and you don't see any flaws, you are being snowed, okay? Alert, okay, sirens, something's wrong because everyone has flaws. So either you're infatuated and maybe you the physical is involved or something that made you lose your brain and get your vision cloudy and become infatuated, or you just aren't paying attention, or he's just really good at deception, okay? Because everyone has flaws. So we just want to decide if his flaws are the ones that I can deal with for the rest of my life, okay? Now we want to take this deal breaker list, which again is around 10, 11, 12 items, and we want to make what I call the blurb, which is basically, some of you probably have this, a little description of what you're looking for in a paragraph form. When my daughters were dating, I would send their resume as one document and the blurb as a second document. And it was a little description of them and a description of what they were looking for. You want to be very, very careful that your blurb really articulates your deal breakers. It doesn't have to be every deal breaker in that blurb, but the most significant ones should be in that paragraph, because we don't want to be dating. We don't want to be set up with people who are so like off target for us. We want on target. So the blurb is really, really helpful for this. I've seen it again and again in every world. In every world that people date in, that this is so helpful. Okay. And it can really help people to set you up more successfully. Additionally, if you are dating, in the world where your parents are kind of your gatekeeper in Shidduchim. So you really need to make sure your parents understand your deal breaker list. So again, when my daughters were dating, I sat down with them and I took notes. They are much more to the right of kind of where I am, since, whatever, just is what it is. So I really needed to understand what they were looking for and really get it, internalize it, because I was their gatekeeper, right? I was the one that is receiving the suggestions. So I needed to really, really understand what they were looking for. Okay. And so if your parents are your shidduch gatekeeper, you really need to make sure they get what you're looking for and can articulate that to other people, to the shadchanim. Okay. So that's the deal breaker list. Hopefully everyone understands that, okay? And the blurb, and you want to make sure that you can articulate an elevator pitch, okay, which is basically your blurb in a couple sentences, okay? So, oh, you're such a great girl. I would love to set you up. What are you looking for? Good mitos? Okay, right? So I want to be really clear. It should just roll off your tongue. This is what I'm looking for. And by the way, the more specific you can be, the better. I just made a video that hopefully is going to come out this week on my social about this, that I hear from a lot of people that people tell them they're too picky. But I feel like oftentimes it's the opposite. It's not that you're too picky. It's that you're too all over the place. You're too general. The more specific you can be about your deal breakers, not about preferences, but about your deal breakers and the personality that's going to work best for you, the more specific you can be, in my opinion, the better people are going to be able to set you up. Like if you just say, oh, I'm looking for like a nice guy with a stable job, like I have no ideas, right? But if you can really encapsulate it in a very like pithy phrase, a sentence and a half of what you're looking for, I actually might be like, oh, wait, I know him. Okay, so I personally think that it helps people to generate ideas for you, the more on target, specific, and selective you can be. Okay, number 3, a word on chemistry. Okay, so any of us who have watched a lot of movies or Disney or that type of stuff, we may subconsciously have internalized some ideas that when we meet the right person, it should just click, fireworks. I should know right away, that thing in my stomach right away, first date or second date. And this is not true, okay? Oftentimes that is how it works for many men, I've found, but women just take longer. We're more in our head. We kind of overthink, and we're weighing all the pros and cons, and right? So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel it right away. Real love comes later. Don't wait till marriage, okay? I'm not one of those people who says, no, just like you don't need chemistry and, just it'll come after marriage. No. I don't believe that. You have to feel a connection. And for most women, yes, we're going to save this life. Most women, physical attraction comes from emotional connection. Okay, so oftentimes that I'll speak to a client and she'll be like, he's great on paper. It's like he's checking off all my deal breakers. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just not feeling like attracted to him. The chemistry is like not there. So I will often say to her, well, were there any moments on any of the dates that you went on so far that you did feel chemistry? Like you did feel more drawn to him? She's like, oh yeah, like on date 5, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, what was going on at that moment? So, because we want to replicate that. Whatever's working, we want to do more of. So sometimes she'll say, we were having like a DMC, it was like such a deep, intense conversation about like hashkafa or this or that. And I just felt like so connected and I thought he was kind of cute. Okay, great. Do more DMCs. I had another girl who said to me, we played like mini golf and we just like goofed off and had such a good time. And I just thought he was so cute because we were just like goofing around and having fun. So great, do more activity dates, right? You have to know yourself and know what connects you. Sometimes you need to see someone more frequently, right? If you're seeing someone only once or twice a week, sometimes that's just not enough for most of us to feel connected to someone. So you might need to see someone a little bit more. Not every day. Do not try that at home. But maybe 3 times a week instead of once or twice, right? So sometimes that can generate the chemistry. But this idea that on the date 1 or 2 or even 3 that I should just know that this is my husband or this is my wife. See, I don't want to talk about the other gender because I do know a lot of men. In fact, the majority of men I know knew that they were dating their wife within a couple of dates. So we're just going to put the men aside for a moment. But for us ladies, it takes a while. And it's not necessarily, oh my gosh, clarity on the second date and my heart is pounding, right? That's just not generally how it happens. Which leads me into my next point, which is we never break up with Mr. Parv. Okay, that was a term that I coined. Parv, neither milk nor meat. We're neutral, right? So we never break up with Mr. Parv. What do I mean by that? We always want to keep going out with someone that we're feeling a little bit neutral about and to see if it could go to yay or ew, right? It will go one way or the other if you date long enough. Now, this does not mean you're grossed out by someone. If you're like ew on even date 1, I would never recommend going on a second date. But if you're Parv, meaning you had a pleasant time, he's a normal looking person, right? It's basically, it was fine. So for sure, go out again. And, I don't know, countless clients who are happily married to people that they were Parv about in the beginning for 3, 5, 7, 9 dates. Like really took a while to get going. And if you're one of those people who's like slower to open up and slower to connect, it's going to take you a little bit longer to feel connected to someone and feel attracted to them. So we never break up with Mr. Parv, particularly if everything is there on paper, right? The deal breakers are there, common goals and values. You enjoy his company. He's respectful. You have nice conversations, right? Like all that stuff's there and it's just the chemistry is not there yet. Please don't break up with him. Call me. Okay. I have a ton of clients who are happily married to men that started off Mr. Parv. So it just means that you didn't connect yet, but it could happen. And we don't want to be looking backward over our shoulder, would have, could have, should have. Like maybe I broke up with that person too quickly. Maybe I didn't give that a chance. He was such a good guy, and the last 3 guys I dated were so like not good. We didn't ever want to look backwards over our shoulder, and that's something I really pride myself in terms of the clients that I work with. We never look backwards. We date until we have clarity in our kishkas, as I call it, that this person is not my spouse. And if we still have question marks and doubts, we keep going out. Okay, so when we're in doubt, we go out again. We're going to daven. We're going to pray for mutual clarity. That's always the tefillah that I recommend for people. Mutual clarity as quickly as possible. We don't want to waste our time or his time. But we don't break up with someone who's good on paper simply because the attraction has not kicked in yet. Now, obviously, at some point, if it's just flatlining, date 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, flatlined, okay, this is not your person. But the way that I've seen it go is a little bit like stock market, right? Like a little up and down, but the progression is up. So, right, that's what we want to look for. As long as the progression is up and things are getting better. And so that's just a word on chemistry, okay? And just, I don't know the audience here, but if you are someone, like I didn't grow up religious, who dated not shomer, like with touch, and now you are trying to date without touch, you have to know that the relationship is not going to progress as intensely and quickly as your relationships that were not shomer did, right? That's the whole purpose, is because touch bonds us, right? Releases oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, and dopamine, and lots of like a cocktail of hormones that make you feel amazing and like super bonded to the person, and maybe he's not even worth bonding to. I don't even know if deal breaker, schmeal breaker, who cares, right? It gets our brain super cloudy and we lose our brain in the process, and this makes for a mess, okay? And a lot of broken hearts. So if you did date, not entirely shomer, and now you're trying to date without the physical involved, just be aware that your relationship is going to take a little bit longer to progress, and it's going to take you a little longer to get attracted and to feel connected. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Don't be worried. Okay. And again, call me before you break up with a great person simply because of this. Okay. But it is a different way of dating, and it's a different progression. And it's really important to remember that. I have a lot of clients like that who, had their moments and now are trying to date with the physical off the table. And it just is really different. It's important to realize that and how that impacts things. And that relates to both men and women. Okay, next, pay attention to red flags. Okay, notice how the person is treating people that he's not trying to impress. Okay, the waitress, the waiter, the cashier, right? The service person, the guy who pumps the gas, like any people that are that you see him interacting with on the dates, that's not you. Because you, and I'm saying this just vis-a-vis men, but it goes both ways. You, the other person, is trying to impress, but they may get sloppy and lazy when they're dealing with the waiter and the waitress, etc. And you're going to be able to see a lot of times red flags through those behaviors. Also pay attention to the research, whether you do extensive Mossad research or you just do a Google search and a couple other things and ask some mutual friends, whatever it is, but pay attention to what people say, how they describe this person, right? That's usually, okay, a word about that. Yes, it's very important to find people off the resume who have an achrayus to you, right? Like someone that's your friend or your relative that's going to be honest with you about this person that you've been suggested to, right? That's been suggested to you. So obviously the references that people write on resumes are of course going to say nice things. That does not mean it's useless to call the references on the reference list. It is still useful, because what the first question that I advise you asking is, how long do you know this person, and can you describe them to me? And then just be quiet and listen. Okay? What they say and the way they say it is very significant. And what they leave out, you got to read between the lines. What did they leave out? Then you can ask your follow-up questions based on your deal breaker list and your hashkafa, etc. But listen to what they say. Okay? So it's totally worthwhile to call the people on the reference list. And you definitely should find people off the resume who just are close to you, right? Someone that can assure you that this person is like healthy, psychologically, emotionally, physically, ready to get married, etc., etc., etc. Okay? However, once you're dating and you're on the dates, please do not sweep gut feelings under the carpet. Okay? Now, we don't break up with someone because of a gut feeling. We must have like a rational reason for it. But sometimes your body will pick up on information before your brain. What do I mean by this? You're on a date and you just feel uneasy in your gut. You just don't feel comfortable with this person. Something's off. And you're like, I don't know why. He's like nice looking. He's pleasant. He's a normal person, seems like. But something in your gut is telling you, beware. Okay? Please don't sweep that under the carpet. Okay? I've seen people do that and unfortunately land up divorced. Okay? Speak to a mentor. It could be me. It could be your therapist. It could be another dating coach, but or your rabbi, rebbitzin, whatever, mentor. Do not sweep it under the carpet. Your body is picking up on this person's cues, and sometimes our body is smarter than our brain. Not always, but sometimes. So I'm not saying make any decisions based on your gut, but don't sweep it under the carpet. I hope that distinction is clear, okay? So any yucky feeling on a date should be spoken through with a mentor, okay? Next, do not compare yourself to other people. I have so many, this is more for the younger crowd, but I have girls who will tell me, I don't know if I should get engaged to this guy because I don't feel as happy as my friend looked at her vart. And I'm like thinking to myself, but your friend called me the night before the vart freaking out. Okay, so we don't know what's going on in people's heads. Okay, everything might look picture perfect, Instagram ready, right? But I often know what's going on behind the scenes. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of people who put a big smile on their face at the vart, 24 hours before that, were calling me frantically. Like, okay, I've gotten calls the day before the wedding. I've gotten calls a week before the wedding. By the way, they're all happily married, Baruch Hashem. It was just jitters and whatever, and the Yetzer Hara, but it is what it is, okay? So don't compare what you think your friend was feeling at her engagement party to what you personally feel, okay? That's not how we date. We date based on deal breakers, common goals and values, attraction, emotional connection, mutual respect, hashkafa, etc., okay? With our brain. That's how we're dating, okay? Paying attention to your gut. Our emotions have to be involved. But my line is we want to lead with our head and bring our heart and our hormones along, okay? Not the other way around, okay? We always want to lead with our head, okay? So don't compare yourself to what you think some other person looks like. They look so happy, but we don't know. So you just focus on you and get a mentor who's objective, who can help you out. And okay, where are we? 8:30? Okay, I really want to take some questions, but the last point that I really wanted to make, and I have other points that I could go on with if we don't have questions, but the last point I really wanted to make is one of Emunah and Bitachon, which is faith and trust in God. So I actually get a lot of Emunah from this job because I see how Hashem is really taking care of everyone and really has the perfect person picked out for everyone. I saw this with my own daughters, and I see this with my clients for the last 12 years. It is truly like mind-blowing. I'm going to get emotional. It's really so amazing to see who ends up with who and that Hashem is taking care of it. So I really, really want to convey to you that I believe in my whole being that there is a perfect person out there for everyone. Not perfect, but perfect for you. And you'll see when you're married longer, thank God we're hitting our quarter of century mark married, you're going to see that it's not just the big stuff. It's not just the deal breakers that were there. Hashem, in his genius, puts you together with someone who not just their good qualities, but also their allergies and their flaws match up with you in such a way that you are forced to work on the traits that you came into this world to work on. Okay, it's really fascinating to me. I see this in my own life and so many of my clients' lives that The Vilna Gaon says we came into this world to perfect our midos, our character traits. What better petri dish, I always say, than marriage and children to force you to work on those spiritual muscles. So it's just interesting to me to see that, we make these decisions about who to marry with our deal breaker list and, all these things. And we're being so logical. And then Hashem throws in there, in these like interesting little ways, things that make it perfectly, it's like hashgacha, it's perfectly designed for us to work on ourselves. And that's both for good and not for bad, but in good ways and things that don't seem good ways. It's all custom made for us to work on ourselves, and so too with our spouse. So I really try to, part of my job as a dating coach is really to be my client's Emunah cheerleader. It's a tough process. It's a hard parsha. Some of my clients have been in it for, a while before they landed on my doorstep. And one of my jobs is to really keep their head up through this process. And I share, certain stories from my client base, anonymously, obviously, with no details revealed, to just give them chizuk, strength and encouragement in this journey. And of course, my own life is proof positive of this as well. By the time I met my husband, I had completely and utterly given up. And actually, every date that I went on with him, I was confident, not unsure, confident that he was going to turn into a jerk and everything was going to blow up in my face as it had so many times before. And here we are 25 years later. So I guess it did not blow up in my face. But that's just to show you how far I was just done. And so I really do get the pain involved. I really, really empathize. And I try to be an Emunah cheerleader for my clients and my students, to just be like, hang in there. He is around the corner. And then I see it, and I have women who are like, done. There's no way I'm going to find someone. I have, divorced women and, just women who are looking for a particular niche and like, it's never going to happen. And boom, there he is. So it's a very, very happy business, but I do know it can be extremely painful. And I really am here to help you through the process and hold your hand through the process. And one of the things I always say, obviously, is that I'm the only objective person in your life. If you go to my website, many people think I'm a matchmaker, which I am not. I try unsuccessfully, but please don't reach out to me to set you up. It's a different skill set, and it's not my skill set. I have made one shidduch, working on a second, but it's really not what I do. So I see that, I don't know, Hashem plunks the idea in people's brains, and it's amazing. But I'm here to coach you through the process and be an objective person in your life. I'm not the matchmaker who's nogea. I'm not your friend. I'm not your parents, right? Everyone is biased. I am the only objective person because you're paying me either way. So I'm not attached to the outcome, whether you marry him or not. I'm not attached to that outcome. Okay, so I'm going to take questions. So please write it in the chat. So the first question is, can deal breakers change over time? Okay, great question. In general, if you're over 20, okay, you have been formed by your family of origin, your friendships, your life, any trauma that you dealt with in your life, and then your dating history. So that kind of forms us and forms our deal breakers, basically. So theoretically, if we know ourselves really well, our deal breaker list should not change from the time that we start dating until we get married. However, sometimes we don't fully know ourselves. So sometimes you might go out with someone and he's like checking off almost every box, but like, or maybe he's checking off every box, but something is just not working. And you're just like, I don't know why I'm not connecting this person. And usually I can tease out in a session what's going on. And we figure out that either one of your deal breakers is way more important than all the others, or you have a deal breaker that isn't yet on your list and it needs to be added, and that's perfectly okay. It's dicey, so I wouldn't want you to do that without a mentor, okay? Because we don't want to just keep adding 19, 20, 21, right? And now my list is like humongous. We don't want to keep doing that. We really want to evaluate, is this a viable, like a real deal breaker for me? But it could be. It really could be. And so it's not going to change in drastic ways, but it will change. It could be that you have another deal breaker that ends up on your list that you didn't have in your early 20s, let's say. And in your mid to late 20s, you just realize there are certain things that are just super important to you that were not on that list. Okay, I hope that answers it. Can we reach out to you for coaching prior to our first date? Is there a syllabus for each date? Okay, so yes, please reach out to me before the first date. As I said, I get these emergency phone calls like, I'm about to get engaged or break up, and I've never met you before. I'm like, so difficult. So I just have like so much homework to do. And by the way, it's very hard to make your deal breaker list when you're already in a relationship because you are biased. Okay, so try to make your deal breaker list before you start dating someone. Okay, when you're already in it, it's too difficult. All right, I mean, we'll do it anyway, but like it's much harder. Okay, so I really love it when people reach out to me before they start dating, before the first date, and then I can get completely up to speed, understand who they are, where they're coming from, what's been going on, what do I need to pay attention to? Are you the type of person that cuts things off too quick, prematurely, or are you the type of person that schleps things out too long, right? Like what's been going on? So I really love it when you reach out to me before the first date, because then I can be completely, caught up and ready to hit the ground running as soon as you go out on your first date. And sometimes I really advise, a client should run a name by me. I know a lot of people, or like send me a resume. I can kind of like try to sense who this person is a little bit. Maybe I have a connection off the resume that they don't have because we have different circles. So maybe I can be helpful in terms of research, whatever. It's really important to reach out to me, ideally before the first date, but it is what it is. I take people whenever they reach out. Is there a syllabus for each date? I assume what you mean is like, what should I be doing on each date? So I really advise date 1 and 2 is what I call airplane talk, which is just like, if you were taking a trip to Florida from New York, it's like what, 2.25 hours, and you sat next to someone who was Jewish and you started talking. Okay, what are you going to talk about? Where do you live? Who's in your family? What do you do for a living? Did you ever go to Israel? Oh, did you go to seminary? Did you like that seminary? Right? Like, not. So what are your deepest held fears? We're not going there. The first 2 dates are light. What are we doing on the first 2 dates? We're being very present in our body so that we can pick up on red flags, energy, chemistry, etc. Okay? We want to be very present, not here, not in our head, in our body. Be very grounded. Take a deep breath and be grounded and just be in the moment, right? Just perceive. All we're doing is seeing if it's a pleasant time, right? We're not thinking about our deal breakers so much that early. We're not thinking about, is this my spouse? Please don't do that. Okay, I used to do that regularly. Get way ahead of myself. Please don't do that. Just be present and chilled out. After date 3 on, now we're starting to think about deal breakers, hashkafa, goals and values, all that type of stuff. Okay, I'm a big fan of the game Perfect Matches for anywhere from date 3 on, maybe 4 on, because it really helps you to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that all the big topics have been talked about. And especially if you're the type, or maybe he's the type, that it's hard for him to like ask questions or like figure out what to say. So the game is very helpful for that and can get you to go deeper in your relationship. So that's basically what we're doing. From date 3 on, we're focused on deal breakers, goals and values, hashkafa, respect, all those types of things. Okay. What happens if you're still not feeling chemistry after the 8th date, but the person checks off a lot of boxes and I'm worried to say no to my true zivug? Okay, so I see that this is a man. Okay, so I'm going to answer differently because, again, most guys know before the 8th date for sure that this is their spouse. Now, there are exceptions. If you're saying you're still not feeling chemistry, I want to say like, you're not attracted to her? Is that what you're saying? And you've gone out 8 times and she checks boxes, but you're not attracted to her? I would not advise continuing to date. But, speak to a mentor or, a rabbi or a dating coach before like making any rash moves. But in general, for a guy to not be feeling attracted at that late stage is not really a good sign as far as the long-term capabilities of this relationship. For a woman, it is different. If they are checking off the boxes and really everything's there and the person's like a pleasant looking person, as I said in the beginning of the live, sometimes you need to tweak the dating process a little to generate more chemistry, like have more deep conversations, see each other more frequently, like whatever's working, let's do more of. That's what I said in the beginning. I would ask you that same question, I guess. Were there any moments where you were attracted to her? And if there were, what was going on at that moment, and try to do more of that. But in general, with men, it's not really so simple as, it's guys really you need to be very attracted pretty quickly. So it's a little bit different for the genders in my experience. How much is too much hishtadlus? Where should we draw the line? Okay, that's like a huge question, which applies to like lots of different areas, right? In every area of our life, we have to figure out how much hishtadlus to do. I have heard, I'm not going to be able to remember the source for you, that shidduchim is actually an area where we have to do less hishtadlus and leave it more up to Hashem. So I advise my clients to do what's normal, right? Like you go to maybe a couple events, meet with a few shadchanim, follow up with those shadchanim. Maybe you're on a website, Adopt a Shadchan or Sayat Sinai or whatever. You don't have to be on 5 websites, 1, maybe 2. You don't have to meet with 25 shadchanim. You can meet with 5, right? You can message another few, maybe go to a round robin shadchan thing on occasion. Reach out to your contacts is the most important thing to do, honestly. Network through the people who know you, right? Your married friends, family friends, people at work, etc. These types of people who know you are going to be most apt to set you up successfully, particularly if you have a good blurb. See the beginning of the live. Okay. But you don't have to do crazy amounts of hishtadlus. We have to have emunah that Hashem has our person picked out, and now we have to move our chess pieces around the board in a normal hishtadlus way. Okay. But we don't have to go crazy. And just what I've seen both in my kids' lives and my clients' lives, a lot of times the suggestion comes from left field. Okay, I could tell you crazy stories. So what does that mean? We have to just move our chess pieces around, and then Hashem does whatever he wants. He brings it however he wants. But don't make yourself crazy. And by the way, I'm so happy you asked this because I really want to add, do not make dating your whole life. Okay? Please don't make dating your whole life. Do self-care, do the things that you enjoy, that bring you joy and nurturing. Hang out with your friends, go to the gym, travel. Don't be like, oh, I can't travel because maybe I'll meet him. Stop that, okay? Do stuff that makes you joyful. Don't put your life on pause because you're dating. That is not smart, okay? We want to live our life and make twice a week time to date, okay? That's the minimum that I advise. If someone's not making 2 times a week to date, you're not ready to be dating for marriage, okay? But don't make dating your whole life, okay? Do you have any hints on what to do when you like your date, but he's incredibly shy? I feel like I'm always initiating the conversation and it's a bit stressful. So if too shy is not a deal breaker for you, then that's something you felt you could live with. So the game is a great option for someone like this, right? Perfect Matches or any of the other games that are out there. It helps you, you're just picking cards. And so it's not like, what should we talk about next? What should I ask him? You can just pick cards and it's a lot less stressful. But you have to evaluate, is it a deal breaker for you that he's shy? For some people it is. Some people it's not, okay? But the game is great for that. Is it true the more emunah you have, the less hishtadlus you have to do? Yes, that is true. But we have to be real with ourselves, right? We have to know, really be real about our level of emunah. Do you know what I mean? We can't be like the rabbis in the Gemara, who just worked, I think the Chavetz Chaim even worked for an hour a day or something. We can't do that. So you have to do what's normal, and then Hashem, you're in charge. And daven, tefillah is what works better than anything else to begin with, and just daven. And then, if he's not here yet, if your spouse is not here yet, whatever is perfect. It's not on my time frame. I wish it was, but if he's not here yet, So I'm going to do things that nurture myself in the process so I don't get discouraged and down. Why is it different between men and women regarding attraction? What if you still don't feel so much chemistry after 5 dates, but the dates are fine? Okay, so that's a woman asking me. Please be in touch with me. I'm really happy to help. This is what I do day in and day out, dealing with these issues of chemistry and attraction. Should I go out? He has everything I'm looking for. Should I keep going out? I deal with this all the time. Okay, so please feel free to reach out and set up a session. But why is it different between men and women? In general, that's just what I've seen professionally and personally. My husband has a cute Devar Torah on this that... women were given Bina Yasera, right? An extra cupful of intuition in our creation. And my husband says that men were given an extra tablespoon just in the area of shidduchim because it's their mitzvah, it's their obligation to get married. So Hashem, in his kindness, in his chesed, he gave them like an extra tablespoon of Bina just in the area of shidduchim. And so they can find their missing piece. There she is, right? And they have clarity so quickly. It's like astonishing to me, right? Date 1 or 2. So almost every man I know knew that quickly. From my father to my father-in-law, to my husband, to my friends, to my students, to my clients. Like literally, I could count on one hand the amount of exceptions to that. If someone's like a healthy person and marriage-minded, they usually know very quickly when they're dating their wife. So that includes attraction. Obviously, if he knows on date 2 that he's going to marry you, he has to be super attracted right away. Okay, so it just has been my professional and personal experience that that's what happens. If you're a woman and you're not sure about the chemistry, please be in touch with me. And yes, you should continue. If it's only been 5 dates and it's, it's a little bit parv, but it's slowly increasing a little bit, you should keep going out. What to do if your parents and you are not on the same page? They nix a lot of ideas that I would want to pursue. And despite having multiple conversations, it didn't really change anything. I am so sorry to hear that. That is really, really hard. I would say if there is a rabbi that could have a hashva on your parents, that's what I would do, right? I would speak to the rabbi and have the rabbi sit down with your parents, or maybe all of you sit down and just, this is not working. That happened to one of my clients where her parents were just, she was like, became more religious than her parents. And so her parents were like looking for, I have a few people like that. Her parents were like looking for a different type, and they were like ruling people out that really would have worked well for her. And also trying to convince her to date people that would not have worked out for her, that were too modern for her. So really important to get your parents in gear. Or you can take over your own shidduchim. That's the other option. So if you feel that it's, you've spoke to them several times, it's not working, you could take over your own shidduchim. Have, another family member do your shidduchim. Have a rabbi, a mentor, a coach, someone help you instead of your parents, since they're not really understanding. But, try to get the rabbi involved. It might be helpful. A guy asked for my number from a shadchan after seeing my resume and now hasn't called and I'm waiting. Should I tell the shadchan or leave it? I don't like leaving things open. Absolutely tell the shadchan. That's totally inappropriate behavior. I really am a big fan of transparency and accountability in this business of shidduchim. Please tell the shadchan when a person is not acting appropriately. They should not be setting him up. Okay? If he has your resume and he said he was going to call and he didn't call, that's objectionable behavior. He's probably not marriage-minded, or he's dating someone else already at the same time. Okay? Tell the shadchan and move on. Okay? How would I know if I have commitment issues? Probably, a therapist might be able to help with that, or a dating coach. Sometimes if we find that we've dated a lot of people who really were in our ballpark, like checking off our boxes, and we just didn't feel they were right, maybe there's something there. Particularly if, this just is what it is, but if a person comes from a divorced home, without therapy, it's going to be tough to get over your ambivalence towards marriage. So I really recommend, very focused therapy if you come from either a divorced upbringing or an upbringing where your parents were married but fighting all the time. We need to work through that because you may be drawn to what's familiar, even though it's not healthy. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're not dating dysfunctionally because we didn't work out our own stuff beforehand. How can we show in shidduch dating that we like our date? I don't want to come off as inappropriate. So, depending on which date it is, you could definitely say like, you look nice. Or, I had a great time. You don't want to pick out physical features to comment on. Obviously, that would be inappropriate. We want to stay sneeze about this, but for guys or women, I love how you handled that with the waiter. That was like so stressful. Or compliments. That's so amazing that you put yourself through school or whatever, right? Like sincere compliments go a long way. And, I really had a nice time. Those types of nice compliments and feedback are nice to just show interest. And I was just coaching someone about this who's like, it's hard for her to like open up. And I said to her, even if it takes you longer to open up, you can still show interest. How do we show interest? Eye contact, smiling, laughing at each other's jokes, asking follow-up questions, being engaged, interested, right? Smile. All of those things communicate interest, even if you're not the type to like throw everything on the table, early on. But you can show interest with a lot of facial expression, smiles, depending on the world that you're dating in. A little bit of flirtation can be helpful as time goes on, but don't let it get carried away because, that would obviously be problematic. How do I know if something is a deal breaker or maybe I can eventually get past it if we keep dating? Right. So again, it's better to make your deal breaker list before you start dating someone. This is the difficulty, but I would really encourage you to reach out and set up a session. I'm really happy to help. What would you recommend if I'm dating someone whose parents are divorced? How can I find out if they have commitment issues? So, talking to references, talking to them themselves, did they ever do therapy after their parents got divorced? If so, great. As time goes on in the dating, what did you learn from that? Did you ever feel like you had ambivalent feelings about getting married? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Any other questions? We're heading into the home stretch here. As you're dating someone a little bit longer, finding out what their love language is very important, and sharing yours. I think that's a very fun topic of conversation. But if the other person is words of affirmation, so compliments are going to be even more important, right? Versus someone who is gifts. They might really appreciate like a cute little token gift or, sushi from their favorite place, those types of things. So the 5 love languages are very helpful for building connection. I wouldn't do that in the beginning because you don't even know this person. You don't even know if you are right for each other. But once you're kind of getting to the point where it's more serious, that can help, build a connection and a bond. Examples of kosher flirtation. This is hard to give a class in, but like you do it or you don't, it's just like a certain vibe, a certain like just smile and energy that shows that you're interested. But again, we don't want to veer over into inappropriateness. So you really have to probably, speak to a coach or something like that. How do I need to feel it's a burden asking some of my colleagues to network for me? I'm sure they won't look at it as a burden, but I feel it is. Okay, great. So this is such a good question. In your professional life, we all would have no problem at all if I found out that my friend's cousin's aunt's sister-in-law's brother was in the field that I was interested in getting a new job in. I would have zero problem being like, oh, hey, can I send you over my resume and can you send it to him because this is the field that I want to get into, or maybe you could give me his number, et cetera, et cetera. In our professional life, we have zero problem doing this. We don't feel like weird or like nerdy about it. We're like, yeah, I'm like assertively looking for a job. But somehow when it's networking for a spouse, we're like, we feel all awkward and like nerdy about it. But it's the same. We're networking for a spouse and we're networking for a job. It's the same thing. By the way, years ago when I was single and I was looking to move from the Upper East Side to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and it's so hard to find a 1-bedroom apartment for an affordable price, I told everyone what I was looking for, and I found my apartment through the taxi driver. Okay? So this is a lesson to us that just spread the word and network. Really. It's the same as looking for an apartment or a job. Don't be weirded out. I'm personally very impressed when someone reaches out to me, guy or a girl. I mean, again, everyone thinks I'm a matchmaker and I'm not. But when people reach out to me, hey, can you set me up? This is what I'm looking for. I don't look at them as nerdy. I don't look at that. I look at it as like, fantastic. Great. I'll try to give it some thought, even though I'm not a shadchan. Okay, so look at it the same way as looking for a job. You want to really convey to the people in your network your elevator pitch, your deal breakers in a blurb, elevator pitch, right? This is what I'm looking for. You know, please let me know if you think of someone. And then follow up. Hey, just wanted to know if you've given it any thought, you know? Okay, so I think this takes us to the end. We're coming up to just under an hour. I would really love to be helpful to you guys, so to you ladies. I'm a dating coach for women only. So if you are a woman and you would like some help in your dating process, please feel free to reach out either on my Instagram account, Devorah Kegel, or on my website, devorahkegel.com. I try to post a lot of really awesome free content on my Instagram. So you know, you can scroll through and just look at some of the things that I'm trying to convey. And if you would like to meet with me, it's really my greatest honor. Like, honestly, I'm not saying that like fake. It's really my greatest honor. It really gives meaning to kind of my struggles in dating and my journey to help other people. So it's my greatest pleasure and honor. We're at 264 ladies married. I hope to, I don't know, the sky's the limit. Who knows where I'll get to in my lifetime. Hopefully Hashem will bring me, leave me here for a long time to help a lot of people. And I just want to give everyone a bracha, a blessing, that you should have strong emunah and bitachon in this journey to meet the right person. And you should have total clarity when they come along. And in the meantime, you should nurture yourself, take care of yourself, do things that make you happy and joyful so that you can come to your dates with a positive attitude and a sense of hopefulness and optimism. Amen. Everyone should have a Shana Tova. This is a great year to daven for Shidduchim. A great time of year to daven for Shidduchim, because we're about to get a new din, right? A new judgment in just a few weeks. So this is a really fabulous time to reach out to a dating coach or to revamp your dating life, try to do things a little differently, and daven a lot, okay? Thanks so much, guys. The live will be recorded, so you can watch it from the beginning if you came late, and you can, point people in the right direction who you feel like it might be helpful for. Okay? Thanks so much, and we'll be in touch.